Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. And my name is Yuri Hirayama. I am from Tokyo, Japan, but I currently live in Monterrey, Mexico, to continue my PhD while working. While teaching. So, as a teacher, of course, but as a PhD candidate, I have to keep doing research as well. About what? About sustainability and global education and the leadership and entrepreneurship. And then I have been teaching over 20 years, but recently, about 1.5 years ago, I established a new school. It's called Yuri Education Center. Yuri is my name. The purpose is to empower young students and especially young female students. I'm going to explain to you how the Japanese education is, but I lived in Texas for 5 years, and then currently I live in Mexico, but there is some difference, and then I'd like to explain how the Japanese education is. And also, Japanese education will be changing to global education. Okay. I focus on sustainability because, well, this is SDG, designed by UN. The reason why I selected sustainability as a global topic is they're facing the common challenges. So the important thing is to have discussions, including Japanese students and also students from Africa, Europe, Latin America, Asia, and from other countries. So I selected SDGs for that purpose. And then each country's main target will be different, but I can select, for example, SDG 12, that's responsible consumption and production. That's really the common theme among many countries. So that is the purpose of selecting sustainability as a global education. And then mainly 3 sections. First section I call that is Yuri's Happy English. What I did was to gather Japanese mothers and small babies, maybe from 8 months up to, I would say, 3-year-old kids. And then local government actually has been supporting me financially as well. I am a mother also, but I have 2 children, a 13-year-old girl and also 10-year-old boy. But I realized that, okay, after I had a birth, I felt lonely staying at home. And then, as you could probably imagine, in Japan, mostly mothers have to take care of babies. Even during pandemic, a lot of fathers had to work at home or outside, both. So a lot of fathers couldn't actually join child raising, baby raising. So mothers had to stop working and then focused on baby raising, which is good, I think. But sometimes mothers feel very lonely. So I gathered them, okay? I called them to come to local community centers. And then I was very surprised to see that local community centers, the rooms were empty. Nobody was using. They have so much space, but nobody was using. So actually, I negotiated with local community centers so that the mothers and the babies and I could use those rooms. Actually, I was teaching English and music and sustainability, but I considered that okay, any subject would have been okay. But a lot of mothers were interested in learning English, and they maybe the babies also. So yes, music and English teaching was enjoyable for me and for them too. And then in the morning time, just 2-hour meeting, parents, sometimes fathers came, so gathered and then shared their interest and common theme to discuss. That was very meaningful. So not only in one place, but 7 places in the same ward, I continue to teach. Yes. And then they felt confident and they didn't have to feel lonely. And it's ongoing activity. So babies became very happy because mothers were happy. So that was a progress, I thought. Yep. And then next, well, activity and also work. Lot of elementary school children and also junior high and high school students come home probably at 5 p.m. or so. And then, well, some students need to do some club activities. They come home like at 6 o'clock. But I felt that sustainability education was lacking in schools. Not only the sustainability education, but discussion opportunities were lacking and missing. So, as you could imagine, Japanese students tend to be very shy, and then, in a sense, we should be proud of that, like conservativeness and collectiveness, conformity. But in terms of discussion, they are losing the opportunity because they were not able to express their opinions, feelings. So I gathered the students so that they could actively discuss. But not only discussion, but I set up the theme, for example, topic, waste to wow, it says SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. And then the thing I did first was to talk about what they could do, what kind of topics they could select. So I actually went to a motorcycle store. So I asked them to give me some motorcycle tires so that I could make sandals from scratch. And then really from scratch, I needed to clean first and then cut using electric first. I tried. But later on, I found out that manual cutter, it cost me $3. Manual cutter was the sharpest, the easiest one for me to cut. So I was able to make, sandals using motorcycle tire and also mountain climbing ropes. There are so many ropes which had to be thrown away because mountain climbers need to use the new one all the time, right? So I received a lot of ropes for free. Then I was able to make sandals, and that was responsible consumption and production, one of the examples I needed to show to my students. Then they realized, okay, that kind of things, those kind of things are pretty easy. It didn't take so much time to make sandal. One pair, it took me about 2 hours, but something they could do. And then not only that, since I was taking some MBA classes online, my MBA school is located in Mexico, I was able to contact some indigenous people living in Chihuahua State. They are very famous as fast runners using the sandals that they made from motorcycle tires. So in Africa also, there are some tribes who are making sandals out of tires. Okay, I could contact and then I could mutually share the opinions. That was really great. So my Japanese students learned how to make something, how to repurpose some items. I'm going to give you some examples. Okay. Well, I named it waste to wow because tire, it's abundant, but tires are sitting outside in some developing countries. And then even in Japan, of course, when they want to change tires, they have to pay, right? So if I receive those tires, then the stores are very happy too. Yeah. And then I assign my students, maybe like 4-minute presentation so that they can present their own ideas related to responsible consumption and production I selected. And then, yes, let me tell you the background. In Japan, we have to follow suit. We have to conform. We are collectivists. So original ideas are really missing, I would say. Not so many companies are good at originating something. They are very good at developing, but initiating something is a little difficult for Japanese because of the cultural factor, because of the philosophy, and also because of the conformity. This is the picture of me when I was in high school, but even some foreign people who are attending the same school, let's say that her hair was brown or blonde, the school didn't say it, but they had to change the hair color, right? Like black hair. So it was really unfortunate. But at that time, yes, the black uniform and then the hair had to be black, and then pierce, no. Makeup, no. That's very traditional, but still I see that tendency at school. But the worst, I would say, worst thing is that when I wanted to mention some opinions in class, teachers actually scolded me. Okay, Yuri, you need to listen first. Listen, okay? And then if you have any questions, you may raise your hand at the end. But by that time, I was forgetting the questions, right? So basically, we were not allowed to express our opinions during the class. That was really unfortunate, but still it's kind of moral being like that. So I wanted to change that environment. Yeah, and then, okay, this is the slide of my student. She realized that in Japan, Korean K-pop stars, for example, or Japanese male singers, actors, make up, do you know? Very beautifully. So she included male and female participants. What did she do? She means high school student. High school students receive a lot of cosmetics, okay, for birthday or special occasion. But since schools didn't allow them to make up at school, so they have all the makeup items without using. So they brought all the cosmetic items in one center, and then they exchanged those makeup items, including male, female, and including old people and young people. So, and then they didn't have to throw those makeup items away. That was her idea. Yes. And then, also in schools, Japanese schools, they require us to use landcell, that's the school bag made of leather. And then after using those school bags for 6 years, even though those are still new, they have to throw away. And kimono is really expensive, but maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, only those occasions they wear, but almost no opportunity. So another student, this is just a sample picture, but repurposed those items, and then made something new. Yes. So this kind of repurposing activity is very, very helpful for them. And also, yeah, kimono was able to be repurposed again. Yes. And then another student, this is actually my daughter, she had been drawing using the actual paper, but I realized that the paper's color changed and got dirtier. So she realized that it costs a lot, by the way, to keep buying those papers, and also traces remain even after erasing, and a space consumption, so many sketchbooks. And then, paper is easy to tear, and it can be fragile. So after that, I don't actually encourage my children to use iPad for a long time, but if she wants to use that for drawing purpose, maybe it would be okay. because how she used iPad was really in a meaningful way. So this is the picture that she drew using her iPad. Then the quality, even after 10 years, she'll be able to see the same picture. So yes, that's another way. We didn't have to buy additional papers. Okay, so this kind of repurposing ideas, okay, the one whose hobby is cooking, but lot of Japanese people just buy those items because they are affordable, they can afford. But since they are busy, a lot of things are wasted. So some student, okay, designed a refrigerator and then categorized food by expiration date so that visibly they understand, okay, this food will be expired when. So this kind of repurposing idea, they came up and also they presented and then they shared. And some of them, of course, were criticized, but this was really a great opportunity for them. And then also one more thing. Since Japan has a lot of earthquakes, we have to communicate with neighbors. But neighbors, not so often, right? So, but if let's say that we cook too much today, okay? We could bring some food to neighbors so that we communicate. Then when the disaster happens, we understand where the neighbors live. That's very helpful, especially there are so many old people living in Tokyo, not so many young people. So communication is very important. So that's one girl's idea. Okay, if we cook too much, just share with the neighbor. And then the one interesting one is that Japan students are required to use pencils still. Okay, they can't use pens for exams, so the eraser dust is everywhere. But since eraser's quality is very good, eraser's dust's quality is good. So she gathered some dust and to make one new eraser. That was another repurposing idea. And then she even designed the desk, which has dent. Yeah. And then another thing I realized that was that, okay, I included Japanese students, and then I even held some events so that they could make a presentation. But one day I realized that, okay, what if I include the students from other Asian countries or African countries? I couldn't include the students from Latin America or United States just because of the time difference. Yes, okay, including Asian countries and African and European countries was, yeah, probably that was the only thing I could do at that time. So I started to include the active Asian students. For example, the ones from Pakistan, they were used to discussing courageously. They're very competitive. So I started to include the ones from Pakistan and India, Hong Kong, Singapore. Then our Japanese students were really surprised to know that they were pretty active. And then sometimes in Africa, okay, they didn't have individual computers, so I let them join in a class, so collectively. In a sense, Japanese students, each one of them has like at least one iPhone, iPad, and a computer, and one headset. They have a lot of things, but they are quiet. They used to be very quiet. That was very unfortunate. But after including those students, Japanese students became very, very courageous. And then sometimes it's difficult to unite people. So I assign some homework and so that they could prepare beforehand. And I strongly believe that in our youth, it is important to consider why, in addition to what, to make our discussions more interesting and to better understand people on the same earth. Yeah, we need to discuss really And it's not important. If we cannot find a solution, that is still okay. The process is more important. Yeah. And then also focus on quality education, SDG 4 too. Especially B, what types of educational problems do you encounter in your country? Unfortunately, in Japan, even though there are so many opportunities, but some of them cannot go to school. So, well, it is okay to take online lessons, but sometimes they have to be, outgoing and sociable. So they have to be sociable, but in order to be sociable, then online education, needs to be, revised or needs to be considered a little bit more. So each country has different problems in terms of education, but we gather in order to discuss. And then not only that, one day I realized again, what if I include some sustainability practitioners or professors in our class? Then they can ask questions directly to those practitioners and professors. So I started to include, for example, Oxford alumni members, yes, and NUS, Singapore alumni members, but they are actually business people, right? And industry leaders. So the students gained a lot of things from them too. But I conduct Zoom sessions because there is some time difference. So yes, and the evening time in Japan is like morning time in Africa and also Europe. And when I include those countries, that's one session. And then I recently started to include Latin America and also Canada and the United States. So I basically conduct 2 sessions, okay, including Latin American and also the African. So, yeah. And then the topic is based on SDGs. And then one more thing. Her name is Aizel, a 13-year-old girl from Pakistan. The miracle things happened. They became leaders. I have been teaching leadership, and then they became leaders. So their idea related to SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, that became very practical. In Pakistan, there are so many ghost nets in the ocean. Intentionally or accidentally, we don't know, but fishermen accidentally probably abandoned the nets. So those nets are destroying marine environment. So she came up with the idea, some idea, then why don't we utilize those nets to create the soccer football nets? And then who is going to utilize that? The women in Pakistan. Okay, they are very good at remaking the nets. So Aizel, has been giving some working opportunities to the women in Pakistan, and this is ongoing. And then I will continue to support the empowerment of youth so they can raise their voices, engage in collective thinking and in discussion, and then take meaningful action together with adults. Yeah, that's the purpose of including adults and children and university students in the same class. Recently, I held a Zoom session. So after learning the importance of innovation, we students and the teachers tend to be very innovative, but we shouldn't forget about tradition. So let's discuss the importance of leadership and the cultural heritage. That was the topic. And a lot of them thought about, how to balance innovation and tradition. And then I invited the professor from EGADE Business School. Yeah. And then the guest speaker was providing a meaningful lesson too. Yeah, and then each student provided one slide, including the message. Sustainable farming practice. And in Vietnam, for example, Westernization is good, but it's important to ask all the people's opinion. They need to conserve their culture and the tradition as well. Yeah, the person from Africa, integrate innovation with tradition, he was insisting. Yeah. And the one from Mexico, well, she was talking about energy transition, but Mexico has so many indigenous people, so they need to listen to indigenous people's voice in order to proceed energy transition too. Yeah. Okay. And then the students themselves became speakers in class. So they are high school and university students, but now they can teach. They can lead the discussions too. That was one of the achievements. Yeah, and then in terms of female empowerment as well. And then I myself continue to talk about how to empower women and the youth. And then, okay, the last thing I would like to say is that I realized that a lot of leaders are lonely, but they are not quiet. So why they are lonely, why they feel lonely? Because they cannot find people whom they can communicate with. So I am gathering those kind of lonely leaders so that they don't have to feel that they are lonely. And being lonely is actually an opportunity and an advantage because they can have plenty of time to think. I'm also a PhD candidate. You know, PhD is Doctor of Philosophy, right? So we have to think and implement. So, well, if they are lonely, then why don't we, well, think and do, gather and share our ideas and discuss and implement, take actions. That's something I encourage them to do. And then also, this is the concept of my education center too. Okay, we will gather leaders from each country so that they can courageously discuss, actively lead, and collectively act. Yeah, that is our philosophy. And it's still new, but thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.